8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, and welcome to the weekly wrap with the USA Liberalists. Tonight, your hosts are Cody and George.
Yep.
We have a few different topics. This is another Portland-heavy episode, so if you're not familiar with what's going on here, I apologize. You might be interested. If you've heard all this before, well, you're going to hear it again, but you're going to hear our take on it, I guess. We're also going to cover these ICE attacks. There's been several, so we're going to kind of touch on all of them, but the most recent ones are in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, represent getting shot.
Right.
Wait.
leftist hate comes to Texas.
Hell yeah. Hey man, we can take it. It's fine.
And then these Hong Kong protests, which I don't think are getting nearly as much media coverage as I think they should. So as small as we are, we're going to do our part. So
exactly.
We'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I wanted to lead with Hong Kong just because I feel like since San Antonio is my backyard and Portland's yours, I feel like we should give Hong Kong the time it's due, and then we can endlessly talk about our backyards later on.
Right, yeah, because we have more self-interest in those stories than in this one, but I do have interest in this story.
Yes,
Hong Kong.
Absolutely, especially since it's becoming a weird thing where the Hong Kong people, they feel more American than we do, honestly.
Right?
It's fucking weird. They're just like in the middle of the street singing the national anthem and shit. Why aren't we doing that? Goddamn. Alright. Yeah, it's looking like the Hong Kong shit's it's been going on for more than 2 months now, but that's where like the problems we've been running into recently have sort of started. Because I'm trying to remember what exactly kicked all this off, because it was 2 months ago roughly, and it was some like extradition bill, right? If I remember correctly?
Yeah, exactly. It was the Chinese government the leader of Hong Kong, I think her name's like Carrie Lam or Sherry Lam. I know her last name's Lam. Lam.
Yeah, no, it's actually further back. The demonstrations against the bill began in March and April. I found a Wikipedia article about the protests.
Oh, it's Carrie Lam.
Yeah.
I see it in the article here. But yeah, she wanted to put in place this extradition bill that would allow the Chinese government to extradite people that they deemed criminal, which it's a socialist, communist government, so anybody they don't like, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I think in the article they list like specific people. I didn't write down in my notes, but there were some people that were basically like booksellers and businessmen and newspaper publishers, stuff like that.
Well, it seems like they want to bring Hong Kong, like, for real back into the communist fold, which means no freedom of expression, no, like, Western books, no, none of that.
Right.
You can't have that.
They want the control, because Hong Kong has sort of, I mean, I know this is a charged term, but like separate but equal sort of thing. While they're under Chinese control, but they also kind of sort of have their own like legal system in place.
Well, it sort of seems to be a similar relationship, at least for the moment, as we have with Puerto Rico, where we technically own the territory, but we just kind of let them do whatever they want for the most part.
Yeah.
They can come and go from the United States. They're technically United States citizens, even though, they're not really a part of the whole thing. So yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of what do you call it? A protectorate, I guess.
Yeah, like a protected territory. Although it seems like in Hong Kong's case, the one they need protection from is fucking China. But
right, let's add another protectorate here and allow Hong Kong to be part of the U.S. government. 51st state.
We're gonna annex.
That's my solution.
We're gonna annex Hong Kong.
Hong Kong and Greenland.
That's right. Oh man, that entire story is cool. Like, I would actually be kind of awesome if they annexed Greenland. Actually, I'd be down.
Yeah, they said the government of Greenland said it's not going to happen. So
Yeah. Well, they're not the ones that get to sell it. I have a feeling Denmark is going to magically change their tune if Trump just walks in, slaps $1 trillion on the table.
Yeah, because we're not in debt enough as it is.
I mean,
but this in Hong Kong.
Saying Greenland would be a lot of resources, a lot of money.
Well, plus with the ice caps melting, you know.
I'm just saying, like, come on, Denmark, we will give $1 trillion right now. All you got to do is like, give us the thing. We'll give them like U.S. citizenship. They can stay as Danish citizens. It's fine.
Well, was it Ben Shapiro was saying like, well, global warming, it's going to be like a really nice place, and soon, right? So, or it'll melt and we'll have a Northwest Passage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good long-term investment.
I'm just saying, $1 trillion now pays off in the long run.
Right. So back to Hong Kong. So the first protest in Hong Kong against the extradition bill, they had like 2 million people out in the streets.
Which is shocking that they were able to fit 2 million people on that island. But
well, it's like, I think it was something like a third of the people of Hong Kong,
dude,
like the city, I think.
How crowded is fucking Hong Kong?
Or it's a quarter of the city's population. That's what it was.
What in the world? How dense is Hong Kong? I like, Jesus Christ.
Well, it's probably around 8 million people.
Population.
It's like 700.
7.4 million people on that tiny little island. They've got almost as many people as New York, a fucking megalopolis.
Right, that's
Jesus Christ, guys.
A shitload of people, I think that's more people than live in my state.
Probably, yeah. How many people live in Texas again? Texas.
Quite a few people.
Okay, 28.7 million, but still. Jesus.
I think Oregon is somewhere around 4 or 5 million, something like that.
I'm just saying, it sounds like Hong Kong's like a quarter of our population.
Well, they had a... Damn it, now I want to know how many people live in Oregon.
Or 4.2.
Yeah. 4.2 million people. So that's like half the population of the entire state of Oregon protesting in one city, and they managed to do it without property damage, without littering, without violence. It's a pretty amazing feat, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
It just shows that the people, like, these are the people of Hong Kong. They do not want this extradition bill. They don't want Chinese rule, essentially, over them any more than it already is. So no wonder they're flying the American flag. Now I have a take on that. Like,
okay.
I do think that the people of Hong Kong believe that the American flag stands for liberty and freedom.
I wish we did. Shit.
Well, some of us do. Yeah. I do.
Oh, yes.
I think most Americans do, but there's definitely a loud, vocal,
annoying minority.
Yeah, annoying group of people. The squad.
You okay there? That cough sound bad.
Yeah, it's real bad, man.
Sound like you hawked up some shit there.
That's all I'll say about that. I could no that I'm sticking with that.
We're gonna leave it.
I do believe they believe it stands for freedom and liberty, but I also believe that they know that America's the big player on the world stage, and They want to appeal to them. Essentially, it's like in ancient times when a small state would come to Rome and appeal to the emperor. Essentially,
Oh, you think this is them like waving an SOS?
right? They're like, okay, China's going to come and take us over. We can't stand against them, but if we go get this bigger dog, or this other nation who's just as powerful, if not more powerful, then we can get them on our side, and to help us, we might stand a chance.
Yeah, I think Trump would be sympathetic to Hong Kong's message.
Also, I think they would prefer to be under American rule. I mean, I believe they'd want to be under independent rule. But
I mean, if they have to choose between China or America, I'd pick America too. I mean, I'm biased,
yeah,
but
I think, well, yeah.
I mean, I'd actually rather be under Texan rule, but
Me too. But yeah, these protests have been going on off and on since, would you say, like May?
Let me look again. It was
March or April, I think.
Yeah, March, I think, was the beginning of it.
And recently they started protesting at the airport because they thought it would get more international attention, and they were right. But then you've seen videos online, like the video of the cop, the Chinese cop, like trying to detain one of the protesters, and then the protesters beating up the cop, essentially.
Oh yeah, didn't
cop
one of the
drew
cops?
His gun.
Yeah, the cop drew a gun on someone, and now I think now, even if it may have started as like a cynical thing where they're just like, "Hey, America's great. By the way, please save us." Now I think they're being a little more serious about it, because now I've heard calls for like the Second Amendment. You're like, look, we need weapons to be able to defend ourselves. This is ridiculous.
Well, that's like the pitch you make to Trump. It's like, look, we're willing to buy.
That's the pitch to America, is like, look, if you'll save us, we will buy all the guns. We love
American
guns here.
jobs, because a lot of guns are made here in America.
Like
all I'm seeing is bonuses here.
Yeah, right.
This is a win-win.
There are so many people in Hong Kong to sell guns to.
We are the arsenal of democracy.
That's right.
Let's live up to that moniker.
Arsenal of democracy.
And well, that's what we were during like World War I and World War II. Before we got into the war, we sold a shitload of weapons to like Britain and France.
True.
Maybe Russia. Probably not, but they were our allies back then.
Maybe not Russia. Have we ever actually liked Russia, or was it more just like a pretend thing? Because the Russians are always kind of assholes.
I think before Russia became communist, America didn't have the big power that it was. Yeah. It was more isolationist, sort of like leave us alone sort of thing. And
before planes, that was much more reasonable, huh?
The communist, the communist revolution, and then they just kind of been jerks ever since. So they're going through some stuff.
Fair. Well, it looks like because it started out, these protests actually weren't too big initially, and of course, no matter how big it gets, let's be real, we're going to be too busy fucking arguing over whether or not Fredo is actually a fucking ethnic slur, because Chris Cuomo is proving himself to be the stupidest of the Cuomo brothers, eternally.
Yes.
So now we have to talk about that, because that's way more important than Hong Kong being fucking crushed under the boot of China. Guys, yeah. This seems like a real important thing to talk about. Fuck's sake.
Well, the Chinese foreign minister, he declared, quote, "Now that Hong Kong has returned to the motherland for 20 years, the Sino-British Joint Declaration as a historical document no longer has any realistic meaning." Okay. I think that statement, I mean, that would, if I were a Hong Konger, whatever you say.
A Hong Konger?
That's what they say in the article. That's what they call them. So
That's
I'm
not
going
what.
with this.
That is not what they call them. Hold on. I
That
refuse.
is.
I refuse to accept
It's
that
totally
they're
what they call
called
them.
fucking Hong Kongers. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Look at the
Holy
article,
shit!
man.
It
It says it
actually
right in
says
there.
it. What in the? It says it 8 times.
Yeah,
What the
Hong Kongers, man.
fuck?
That's what they are. They're from Hong Kong, the city of Hong Kong.
What the fuck? Okay, sure, whatever. National Review. That's not dumb. All right.
So, if I were a Hong Konger, that would freak me out, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, that agreement we made with Britain, that Britain decided to leave and that you would stay basically how you are. Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah,
We're in charge
seriously.
now.
Did anyone expect
Uh,
anything else from China? They've always maintained that Hong Kong was Chinese.
well, after the problem too was when the extradition bill it was canceled, but I don't know what she is, Carrie Lam. I don't know what her title is, like governor of Hong Kong or whatever.
She's
Anyway,
some sort of says here, Beijing-backed chief executive. So she's
oh
chief executive of something. I can look it up. Go ahead.
yeah, I think anyway. She gave two statements, one in English and one in Chinese, but they were different statements. So she was saying one to the English speaking world essentially, and then one to the Chinese speaking world.
She's the chief
Which,
executive of Hong Kong, so I think that's like the president.
yeah, she's the chief. Yeah, I guess she's the chief executive officer of Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
She was saying that the bill was dead. I think it doesn't say in the article clearly what she was saying in English and what she was saying in Chinese. I think they linked to another article where they wrote about it, and I didn't follow up, so that's my bad. But she was saying that the bill was dead, but it's really just been shelved. We've had this problem in Oregon too, where they'll say, okay, like the bill can't pass, it's dead, but really they just send it back to committee and then they change like a couple words around and then bring it back up next legislative session. So it's not really dead.
Yeah.
Which to me, it just seems like
It's
a
been
slap in the
zombified.
face. It just seems like, I don't know, like arrogant. Like if if the people don't want something and you decide, well, we're going to table it until we can sneak it in, that doesn't really seem like you're representing the will of the people at that point. It just seems like you think you know what is best for them as opposed to actually representing what they want. Because we've had this happen in Oregon, but we can talk about that another time.
Yeah, we'll get to Oregon.
The protests after this extradition bill was shelved or killed or whatever.
Killed.
The article says it turned into a broader anti-government protest. I think this is a good article, but to me that's not exact enough because I don't think they hate government. Because when I hear anti-government, it just seems like anarchist. They hate governments just generally. This is an anti-communist government. It doesn't seem like they're opposing government. They're just opposing that government. So I thought they were a little loose with the term there, but I don't think it didn't seem intentional to me.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty stark contrast because Hong Kong citizens are in a sort of a unique position where they're able to go to China and then come back, so they get to see the the distinctions between what it's like living under a communist regime and what it's like living in a nice capitalist metropolis. So, yeah, if I had those comparisons, I'd be anti-government too. Fuck that. Hong Kong is a beautiful city. It's got a lot of good things to say about it, even though it's very fucking crowded. Like, have you seen how? Because I went and looked up like the land sizes, and they've got like 427 square miles total.
Wow, it's not that much.
Yeah, like compared to Texas, where it's 597,000 miles, square miles.
Wow.
I'm sorry,
How
268,597 square miles.
how many square miles was Hong Kong again?
427.
Dang, that's like a big house around here.
Yeah, seriously. In Oregon, since I know you're going to ask, is about 100,000.
100,000. Wow, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, the state's huge.
Yeah, our state's
Well,
huge.
the
Yeah, the United
United
States is
States is
huge.
huge.
Hong Kong is fucking tiny. Like, I'm sort of baffled at how they managed to fit in 8 million people in there. That blows my mind a little bit. How tall are
Tall
the
high
how
rises.
tall are the apartment buildings?
Well, they're tall, and then they're also like small, so they can fit more in there. Not
Jesus
the
Christ.
people of Hong Kong are small, but the apartment buildings are
Oh,
typically
that was
kind of
you
small.
did a racism.
Yeah, I had to correct that because
You need to be
the
canceled.
internet. I
You
should be
you
canceled,
have been
probably.
canceled, sir. Be gone.
Good,
Be gone. I have
good.
no need for you.
We should start our own website like YouTube, but just call it canceled. So everyone that gets kicked off of YouTube can come over. Have you been canceled on YouTube and Twitter?
They
Come
need to show
be
receipts, by the way.
come be
They need to
canceled.
prove that they've been banned. We will only it's an exclusive club. You're only allowed on if you've been
Right.
banned from one of these sites.
All right, we got to write that down
All right.
in the to-do list with
Add
all
that
of
to
our
the
free
list.
time that we both have. Yeah.
Cancelled.com. Look out for it. Coming in the future.
We better look up and see if that
I was
domain's
about to
taken.
say, hold on. Cancel.com. No, this is a open domain. I don't know if it's available for purchase, but nobody's using it. Sort of. It's got like a uni thing. A weird
Huh.
I don't know. I think someone might own it. Maybe it's one of those things where someone's just sitting on the domain until someone buys it. And they're gonna
Well,
they're gonna super upcharge for it.
yeah,
Which we are both
it's
rich
a
and
smart
obviously
move.
willing to pay for it. So
Well, yeah, we don't have anything better to do on a Friday night because we're so rich.
owners of cancel.com, I've got 2 shiny nickels and a gumball. What do you think?
I can make you some delicious fucking cookies.
I make an awesome mushroom gravy. I will make you broiled chicken with mushroom gravy for cancel.com.
That
All
actually
right.
sounds pretty good.
It is actually very good. But anyway, we should probably get back on topic. Yeah, it's there's not a whole lot left to say right now, just because we're like there's plenty of stuff going on over there, but it's difficult to get
Yeah, it's
up to
hard
date.
because
Yeah,
the state-controlled Chinese media is like hiding a lot of the information, and so
unfortunately, so is the Hong
we
Kong
gotta
media.
rely on some of the people that are on the ground reporting, and we all know that these big tech Silicon Valley companies are basically in bed with China, and so that's probably why we're not seeing very much about this stuff.
Yeah,
They're
weirdly
totally fine
enough.
with censorship as long as I don't know, it's socialist. It's weird.
Yeah.
Or they're spreading fake news. So they in the article it says something that the Chinese media went into like a building and showed out of context like broken stuff to essentially to whip up nationalistic support from the Chinese people against these Hong Kong protesters and to kind of make them out to be terrorists.
Gotcha. Well, people have actually been trying to get journalists into Hong Kong to like
Yeah,
record
and
the
they've been turned
protests.
away.
Well, I mean, yeah, they've been trying to get them in there because obviously it's difficult for outsiders to get up to date information about what's happening because there's always going to be the language barrier and whether or not someone translates a major event, whether or not it gets reported properly. Like all of that stuff is very iffy, and then got sourcing issues. So it takes a while to get accurate information. So yeah, that's probably the most unfortunate part. Because I mean, how many people do you know that speak Mandarin? Because I know zero.
Yeah, I'm probably there. Zero.
Yeah.
Let's say I did know one guy that might have, but I don't ever see him anymore. So
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is potentially turning into a possible Tiananmen Square in the near future. I don't know if it'll get that bad, mostly because they can't fucking fit a single tank on that island. Not sure where it would fit.
well, they're massing armored vehicles and stuff at the border with Hong Kong. So
You mean the beach?
no, there's probably like a bridge.
Fair enough.
The article said border. There's like a city, I guess, that border. I mean, they could be. Hong Kong's just a city on the island of Hong Kong.
Oh, I thought it
So
took up the entire island.
Well, I think it takes up most of the island, probably, but
Gotcha.
maybe there's like another city. I don't know. I don't know the geography of Hong Kong.
Actually, now that you say that, I remember it wasn't. How do they get? Because I heard somewhere there might have been a bridge to Hong Kong. Okay. I'm looking up so much stuff tonight.
Personally, while you're looking that up, I want to take.
Yeah, there is.
I'm going to do a rare moment here, and I'm going to take issue with Donald Trump.
Okay.
Because I don't think he's being. I would like to see him be more, I don't know, aggressive, which is weird to say about Donald Trump, because you kind of just think of him as someone who's willing to get down there and get into the fight. He doesn't seem like he's really that interested in helping out the people of Hong Kong. And like, they're waving the American flag, they're singing the national anthem, calling for freedom and liberty from the country who's supposed to be the shining light of freedom and liberty. Like,
yeah. Well, I think
why
it's sort
not?
of it's a complicated situation, because obviously if he says anything, China is immediately going to be like, "How dare you?" And like start threatening boycotts, threatening tariffs, all this stuff, and playing the usual political game to get Trump to basically shut up and stop talking about it. Yeah. I think that's the main issue, is just that he doesn't want to piss off the Chinese too much, because we do still need them for a lot of things, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I mean, I might sound like kind of a jerk to say this, but I think the cause of freedom and liberty is worth the sacrifice. To me, it is. I mean, if I lose my job because of it, then so be it.
Yeah.
You know, that is what it is. And, you know, I'll probably be called, what is it? A war hawk or neocon for saying that. But I think I would like to see Trump shine a light on this, because I think it is being swept under the rug. And I do think that he could do more. I know I'm always opposed to the government doing more because they think they do enough, but I do think this is something where the president of the United States could. I would like to see him bring it to Congress, and Congress decide, you know, what they should do about it. But I don't think that's how it works anymore.
Yeah, because like I don't know how much good it would actually do for him to go publicly with it. It seems like it would just stir up tensions. So I don't know if that would actually help, but it would definitely put us in a precarious situation in regards to our relationship with China. I wonder how much stuff he's doing behind the scenes that we're not seeing, because I would suspect that he's doing something, because obviously he knows about what's happening in Hong Kong, because the man sits on Twitter all day, so I guarantee you he's seen it. Even if nobody told him about it, I guarantee you he's just randomly scrolled across it in his feed at some point while he's sitting there talking about how fucking small Marco Rubio is or something. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, especially with the protesters waving the American flags. It's come across on my feed like probably 1,000 times from several different sources. So, and I'm a Republican and a conservative, and so if he's tapped into the same sources that I am online, then he's seen it too.
That's fair. So I think he knows. I hope that he's doing something. I don't know how much good it would do for him to be too public about it. Like, I just don't think it would be that useful, unfortunately. I would love to see him come out there and be like, we need to free the people of Hong Kong. We need to get them out of there. Get them away from the Chinese communists.
Hong Kong is such a beautiful city. It's
Such
a beautiful city.
I visited it one time. Slept with a few hookers. Didn't pee on them, just so you know. Just need to clear that up real quick.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, and the media is not going to report on Trump doing something like that because they got Fredo to report on, or they got to call Donald Trump a white supremacist or a
How
neo-Nazi.
slow was that news day? That the mainstream media is actually talking about Chris Cuomo being called Fredo. Who cares?
Well, they gotta protect their own, That's just how they are.
God, who cares? It's so stupid. Anyway, until there's more information, this article's over, and there's not a whole lot more for us. So, with that said, I think it's time to move on to San Antonio.
Yeah, let's get into some Texas, and let's put this story on ice for a while and move over to ice.
Ooh.
There you go. Yeah, best transition ever.
Okay, all right. Interesting, like possibly suspect quality of puns aside, FBI investigating shootings at San Antonio ICE facilities. No one was hurt. That's good. It looks like the two main ones were basically there was an office building where they shot into the upper floors where the offices were, the top two floors. Looks like someone was almost shot, but not quite. There was also, it looks like the other one might have just been a house that contractor that was working with ICE was, working with. So, I mean, as far as they're concerned, pretty much the same thing, but it is a distinction. Not technically an ICE facility, I don't think, but...
It was somebody's house?
Yeah, it looks like it was just a contractor. Like they were just shooting up the house of a contractor that was working with ICE.
Crazy. So he's just like...
spraying everyone.
He delivers water to ICE, They just said, nope, this guy's a terrorist. I don't know what he does.
He delivers the water to ICE. I think they already have the water.
Yep. Oh.
They're made of
especially with all the global warming.
Oh my god. All right. Yeah, they've been pretty clear about this. The FBI is already investigating. Obviously, ICE has come out. They've been blaming the rhetoric surrounding the whole thing about like cancel ICE, get rid of ICE, defund ICE, ICE are terrorists, ICE are murdering children on the border, ICE are running concentration camps. Like, it's not hard to see how somebody would take that and, go shoot up a facility.
We, when I say we, I mean like normal people, I guess, or I guess people on the right have been asking for a while now that, well, if Donald Trump is literally Hitler and Republicans are literally brown shirts and KKK members and the Fourth Reich and ICE facilities are concentration camps, don't you have the moral obligation to overthrow your government?
Apparently, yes. That appears to be exactly what's happening.
They are answering that.
yeah, they made it. They're serious. Yay!
It's so ridiculous, and I don't know. I mean, when Obama got elected president, there were people on the right who called him Hitler, and I thought that was the stupidest thing ever.
It was dumb.
No, he's not. He's not Hitler. Like, I don't really like the guy. He's not, it's not the end of the world. He's going to be president for 4 to 8 years. We just fight for what we believe in. And if he says something good, then he says something good. But
that's always been a weird thing about presidents, where it's like everybody freaks out when odds are, if they really suck that bad, it's going to be a one-term presidency, and if they don't suck all that bad, it's going to be a two-term presidency, which means they're probably fine, all things considered. It's so strange
Right.
that everyone starts acting like as soon as the new president gets in, the other side starts acting like, oh my god, the sky is falling, someone save us.
Right. It's the Nazis have come back. It's tyranny. It's fascism. It's whatever.
Yeah, it's amazing how
Uh,
whoever the fuck it, like every 8 years, it feels like the Nazis switch sides. It's funny how that works.
well, right. We're all so Nazi-like that we just peacefully switch power back and forth. That's what the Nazis did, right? They
Yeah,
just
exactly. That I
peacefully
remember
handed
that.
power back and forth.
I remember that time
Yeah.
where Hitler was just like, you know what, I'm good for a few years. Why don't you guys give it a try?
Yeah.
Jewish people over there, why don't you try being in charge
Right.
for a little bit?
He put the Jews in charge of the concentration camps for a couple of
Mm-hmm.
years, because that's what Nazis do.
That's
They
right.
just, yeah.
Well,
No,
anyway,
there's a, by the way, fuck Nazis.
fuck
Just wanted to
Nazis.
say that. Fuck those guys.
Yeah, fuck them right in the ass
Um,
with a 10-inch dildo.
there has always been in America a section of the population that sees the presidency and federal power more broadly as tyrannical.
True.
I think that's there's a tradition of that in America. And I think there is some value in it, in that it sort of, I see that there's some value in it when done properly. Like
Well,
it,
there's value in it if you can look at it more broadly, but if your definition of fascist is the other side disagrees with me,
right.
and that's the only time you care about federal overreach or executive power is when it's not your guy. Um, I'll just go ahead and say you don't actually care about federal overreach or executive power.
Right. It's you don't care about a super powerful government. You just care who's running the super powerful government. Right. And if it's your person, then it's fine.
Exactly. And it's stupid, and people need to chill the fuck out. Seriously.
Right, which is why I try to focus on things that are more within my wheelhouse. But
yeah,
this facility, like this. So do you know how many bullets were fired into this facility? Was this seemed like an intentional attack, or was this just somebody drunk with a gun and popping off?
It was almost certainly intentional, mostly because they did wait until it would presumably have been empty. The building wasn't empty because office buildings are never empty, but the only place that in the office building associated that was actually hit were the top two floors. In other words, the actual ICE offices. So it was someone that knew when the building would be mostly empty and where the ICE offices are located.
Got it. So if it was just some random person, drunk guy stumbles out of a bar with a gun and just fires a couple of shots at the moon or whatever.
You would expect it to have hit not just ICE, right?
Right. It would have hit something else too.
Right. Or at least maybe like a stray shot goes to a different neighborhood and someone's window breaks or something,
Right.
But so no, it was almost. I think it would be specific. It was specifically against them.
Yeah, I think it would be safe to say that this was a targeted attack on ICE.
That's not proven yet.
To say that.
That's not proven yet,
right?
But it is pretty.
We don't have proof beyond a shadow of a doubt, but I'd say, the smart money, if I were a gambling man, is there. So this is the fourth attack on ICE facilities. So there were attacks. I didn't know that there was one in Washington, D.C. I didn't hear about that one, but I heard about the one in Tacoma, Washington, where the guy was firebombing the propane tanks and got shot.
This article is actually talking about that.
The attack in Aurora, Colorado, where they tore down the American flag and raised the Mexican flag.
Yep.
And then the one in San Antonio, Texas. Now, I added in here the siege of the ICE facility in Portland, Oregon, but that was a year ago, so I don't know if.
That sounds like it was before all this really started popping off.
Yeah, this was right around. I mean, Portland's so progressive.
Yeah,
we were attacking ICE over a year ago.
we were attacking ICE before it was cool. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, and they didn't really like shoot up the
Hipster
building or
terrorists.
anything like that. They just essentially like surrounded the building and then shit everywhere.
That does sound like Antifa, yes.
Sounds pretty awful. But we have seen, I mean, I'm going to borrow the language of the politicians, which I fucking hate. We have seen a rise in hate crimes against ICE facilities. Why don't they call these protesters anti-government protesters? I mean, ICE facilities are government facilities, and they're attacking them.
I mean, yeah, but they're not, like, I don't think most of them are actively, they're not trying to take down the government, they're trying to take down this specific section.
They're just anti-ICE.
Yeah.
Which I love ICE.
That's my, yeah, ICE is excellent. Goes great.
Iced coffee.
Mm-hmm. I like iced water, iced tea. Excellent.
Oh yeah. Well, and they have they have an important function, and they have a difficult job to do.
Yeah.
Do you know, since you're more closely linked into what's going on in San Antonio than I am, is there any mention like on local media about suspects or anything like that?
Not that I saw. I can check though. Let me look. Let's see.
Yeah, because I usually find with these stories they'll go national for the 12-hour news cycle that we're in now. They'll go national and then they'll update a lot of these stories and things will come out, but they're all just in local news because the media cycle has moved on.
From what I'm seeing, it looks like they did have someone in or someone arrested. I don't see any evidence that the yeah, okay. So the suspect, all right, so it happened around 3 a.m. Tuesday morning. This previous Tuesday, the suspect fired at the building from across the street, damaging several windows. No one was harmed in the incident. The police are investigating whether the shooter intentionally targeted, the ICE office, which probably. The suspect was taken into custody shortly after the shooting, just blocks away from the office building. I don't. Let me see if there's any information about whether or not he's been released.
So they have somebody in custody.
They have somebody that they think. Yes.
They haven't confirmed that this is actually the person yet. Okay.
That's accurate.
So we're waiting on updates,
Basically.
Which we will update you guys if we see some updates on this.
Yeah, I'm sure
if you
we
want,
will.
you can send them to us.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I'm sure we'll see some more updates as it develops, because that's the kind of thing that'll get talked about in the area. So I'll hear about it one way or another.
Yeah. Well, and if you're in like I'm in a lot of local Facebook groups, so sure. I actually see a lot more local stories than national stories now, which took a while to kind of get my social media that way, but which is why I see all this local stuff, like in Portland, have like 1,000 stories on it, just because that stuff gets kind of shared around on social media.
Yeah.
So
I do need to get myself. I need to get myself into some more local groups, honestly.
Yeah, and honestly, you can have more of an impact on the local groups and local events than you can have national. Like, they're fun to talk about, the national events, and everybody's talking about them because
they're interesting.
The internet has everybody, and it's interesting. But the local stuff, like, you can go in and make like an impact. You can go and join the Democratic Party or the Republican Party where you live or whatever. And
your opinion actually matters on the local level.
Right. Like, I could have been a delegate to the state convention for the Republican Party. Just that they didn't have enough people. Like, there were slots open because nobody really wanted to do it, or so there. at least around here, the Republican Party's like desperate for active people. So if you have a mind to do something like that, there are like a billion opportunities. You just got to look low enough.
It's true.
You just got to do what other people don't want to do.
Well, I mean, if other people don't want to do it, probably they don't either. But
right, but you have to be disciplined enough to do. You don't have to want to do it. You just have to understand that that's
you just have to do it anyway.
That's a step towards what you want to do.
True.
You have to put in your dues, or whatever. So,
how many times are you going to say the word do?
do. A million times.
Fuck yeah.
So I was wondering, I have a question is, why aren't these attacks getting more coverage in the media? This is the question that I wrote in the show notes. I don't know why. Because you would think let's say a white nationalist went to, I don't know, one of these ICE facilities, let's say that, and tried to set it on fire, it would be in the media 24/7. It'd be Donald Trump supports this guy in his effort to ethnically cleanse the United States or something like that.
How could he? What a bastard.
But these anti-ICE people, I mean, maybe, and it's the same thing too for shooters, is if the shooters have to fit a certain narrative and then they get picked up. And I think
it has to be sexy enough for everyone to care, honestly.
Yeah, I don't place the blame solely on the media. I do think they share a lot of it, but it's also like we all click on certain things. And so we all click on the headline, white nationalist shoots up Walmart in Texas, right?
Yeah.
But how many people are clicking on some guy shooting up Bernie Sanders supporters shooting up, what was it, the congressional baseball thing?
I mean, I clicked on it, but
I mean,
granted,
yeah, so did I. But I'm sure if I were to ask my wife or some of my more liberal friends, they would totally forgotten about it.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes, unfortunately.
But they remember Charlottesville. They bring it up every chance they get. They love Charlottesville. Which, fuck Charlottesville. Fuck those guys.
Yeah, fuck Charlottesville. Right in the ass.
That's going to be our thing, is we just fuck those guys. Fuck white power. Fuck Antifa. Fuck white nationalists.
That's a pretty fair thing to be against. Like, I'm okay with being against that. That seems reasonable.
Yeah. Okay, so I was thinking, getting a little off topic here. I was thinking, you know how like Antifa and people on the left, they seem to oppose free speech. And I'm not saying like regular people on the left, but like people on the far left. They oppose free speech because they think it spreads fascism, that fascists are abusing free speech and spreading their message of hate is the MPC line.
Okay.
And normally people say, well, the way to combat bad speech, because I don't like the term hate speech, the way to combat bad speech is more speech. Like I was thinking about that, and I'm not sure that's exactly right, in my opinion.
Okay. Explain.
Hold on. I don't think that, I mean, that is good. Like more speech is good, but to me, that just turns into people yelling at each other.
Fair. Yeah.
But the way to combat like bad speech is, it is a form of more speech, but we need to be more specific. And I think the best way to combat like what people on the left would term hate speech would be the Socratic method. is you just ask a bunch of questions. You ask questions, like ask them questions and let them talk more, and try to figure out the question, like try to figure out what they're really saying. Because people will say shit all the time. You know, they'll parrot talking points, or they'll quote somebody. They'll say all sorts of different things, but
regardless of whether or not they have any clue,
yeah, when you start asking them questions, they do a couple things. They either turn into a real human being and start like actually having a discussion with you, and you realize that, oh, I was just misinterpreting what they were saying, or I didn't see it that way, or you realize they get really angry and you realize they're just full of shit and they just hate people.
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
I guess it is a form of more speech, but I think it needs to be a little more specific, because sometimes that gets turned into, well, if we have more people speaking than they do, then we win. And it's like, no, because then you're just drowning them out. You're just silencing them effectively. But I do want more people like asking questions.
I think everyone does. I mean, I think it's well known at this point in pretty much any circle. Even like, I don't care how lefty you are, everyone pretty much understands that the level of discourse right now is stupid. to put it gently, like it's not great. And even if they do subscribe to the Socratic method, or the sort of people that would say things along the lines of, what's it called? What am I trying to say? You know, the people that are always trying to add words to the English language, and they're like, what do you mean we're restricting free speech? We're adding more words. Like the time with the gender types. The ones that just sort of say shit to say shit, it feels like sometimes.
The progressives?
Well, I mean, yes. I was trying to be
social justice warriors,
to be gentle about it, but yes.
The speech manipulators.
I mean, yes, they are speech manipulators, and it seems like that sort of comes with the territory. When you start talking about that kind of thing, it just sort of comes with it. Because the idea of more speech is just like, instead of more speech or less speech, why not just say what you mean and then shut up?
Well, I think the point I was getting at is more speech is partially right, but in my opinion, it needs to be better defined, because I think people think, well, if I want to combat hate speech, we just need more speech. So they think of that literally, like, well, if we just have more people speaking, then we can speak over them and then we win, you know? It's like, if we can get them a loud enough mob, we can drown them out. And that, to me, that's a form of tyranny. That's like saying that's the tyranny of the majority, essentially, or the tyranny of the heckler's veto.
That's unfortunately a real attitude.
Right. And so I don't think people who say that, because I'm sure I've said that before, but I was just thinking to clarify it a little better, at least for me, for how I think of it. It's not necessarily, it is more speech, but it needs to be more specific. It's not, you don't combat, I guess, hate speech or bad speech with louder and more, I guess, harsh speech. You don't
nasty.
You don't get more nasty than the person who you think is nasty. You ask questions, like you speak with them as opposed to at them.
But they're a bigot. I don't.
Well, yeah, that's why you ask them questions, and then they show that they're a bigot. They're a bigot because just because they hate people who don't look like them. Like, their true colors come out. Because if they're like, well, I hate white people because, and then they're like, okay, well, why do you hate white people? And it's like, well, all this stuff. And it's like, well, has that ever happened to you personally?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, but it happens to like my people all the time. It's like, well,
it hasn't happened to you. Then why are we treating this like it's
why
a major part of your life? Yeah.
Why are you upset about it? I understand it sucks for them, but and you want to support that, and that's great, but it's not all people.
Well, I can sort of
Because
appreciate
there's
it anyway.
examples.
I can appreciate it anyway because they're trying to be empathetic. They're trying to support their friends or their community or however they see it. But
Their
it ends up
tribe.
it ends up being a lot of times in my experience that as people try and do that, instead of actually accomplishing that, they just end up in a situation where instead of supporting their friends, they just end up falling for some bullshit that has nothing to do with anything, and they're just sort of talking out their ass.
Yeah.
Like there was a study that that was talking about racism against black people, and basically what happened was there was a huge section of the population in the study that basically said, I haven't experienced these things, but I've heard about other people experiencing these things. And it was at a scale that was like, I think 92% that said they thought it was a serious issue, and also they'd never experienced it themselves.
Right.
It's like, I mean, okay, maybe it is a serious issue, but you don't appear like, why do none of you seem to have any personal experience with it?
Well, it can be a serious issue, but it's not very widespread. Like, there's lots of issues that are like that,
Mm-hmm.
Like mass shootings is one of them.
It
It's a
feels
serious
bigger than
issue.
it is.
It needs to be taken seriously, but the likelihood that you're going to get, you personally or anybody you know, is going to get killed in a mass shooting is very low.
Well, right, that's what I'm saying. It feels bigger than it is, and everybody makes it seem like it's this amazing or this incredible problem that's destroying everything. It's like it's not though.
Well, and social media has amplified that too. So
Yes, massively.
if
Unfortunately.
it highlights these minor events, and then they get not taken out of context, but they get interpreted in a way, and then you see that all over the place. It's one of those things where if you're looking for it, you'll find it.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can make anything appear if you're willing to look hard enough for it. That's just sort of the way it works. Like,
Yeah.
if you're looking for if you're not excuses even necessarily, but if you're looking for, let's say you think that someone hates you, right? Let's say that you've got like someone at work that you're just convinced that they just don't like you. You're gonna if you sit there and like look for things, you're gonna find things. Your mind will present you what you're looking for, regardless of what that is.
Right. Because
If you obsess over it, it will
well,
become
and
real.
it'll affect how you perceive reality.
Yes.
So if, like you said, if you think someone at work hates you, or you think your boss hates you, then your boss might be mad at you one time because of something, or maybe he's just having a bad day, but you'll instead of being charitable towards your boss, being like, well, maybe he's got a bad day, like maybe his kid is really sick and is in the hospital, and he can't go see them because he's got to come to work so he can pay his bills, and he's short with you, but you'll interpret him being short with you as, well, he fucking hates me. But maybe he's got something else going on, and because you're held on to this idea that your boss or your coworker hates you, you're held on to this idea that, and it'll manifest itself in the world.
Yeah.
Deep
That's
shit,
accurate.
man.
It's accurate. Like, I don't know. It's so hard to get those things out because everybody they've been focused on it for so long. The obsession has been in their mind for so long, whatever it is, that when you try and point out, it's like maybe there's some alternate explanations for these things. They've seen so many things that fit the puzzle that they've formed this giant conspiracy theory, this giant dramatic conspiracy theory that the whole world's out to get them or their group or whatever. And it's just oftentimes the explanations are much more simple than that. They're much more straightforward. And it's not just that everyone hates you, it's that, you're overthinking it.
Yeah,
9 times out of 10.
Hard.
Yeah, you're looking way too far into it.
Yeah, and I try to. I mean, in the moment, that's why I always recommend to people to just take some time and get some distance from it.
Mhm.
If you're having a problem with somebody or you think they're just being a jerk to you, like don't talk to them for an hour or something.
Yeah.
And just let it go. And then if they come back at you like that, deal with it then. But
Right.
just take some time and get some distance from it. And I think a lot of these, like social media, like if you're interested in that thing, it's an amplification of that sort of confirmation bias, I guess,
Mhm.
is because the way the algorithm works, it gives you what you want. Well, maybe you shouldn't always
that's
get
not
what
helping.
you want. Maybe that's not always a good thing.
Speaking of taking care of your problems directly, it looks like Antifa is still causing problems in Portland.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I think it's time for us to talk about Portland.
Oh, Portland. So tomorrow there's a rally in Portland
Hmm.
put on by Joe Biggs. I honestly don't really know who that guy is. He, as far as I can tell, he was like a reporter or an investigative journalist on InfoWars. He's like a former military guy. And so I guess he's sort of popular in like the Trump conservative circles, but I've never really, I've heard the name before, but I don't know who he is. So I'm not too plugged into who he is, but him and the Proud Boys and a couple other groups, I think the 3%ers, the Oath Keepers, they're both, I think, militia type groups made up of mostly former military and police.
Mm-hmm.
They were all going to have this rally in Portland after Andy Ngo got attacked. The Oath Keepers actually released a statement today saying that they're not going to be there because the organizers don't have a permit and they haven't done enough to keep out white supremacists
Mm-hmm.
and neo-Nazis. So they kind of, and that if they feel like since they weren't in charge of security, the Oath Keepers, that the Oath Keeper name could get tarnished because these people will show up. And kind of like, honestly, I am kind of worried about that a little bit. But anyway, let's kind of go through a timeline and then we can talk about all the fucking shit that I've been worried about.
Okay, let's talk timeline. Because the Portland thing, this new. Well, I mean, honestly, this is probably going to mostly be you. But this new. Oh, what's it called? Protest that the Proud Boys are holding on. It's no, it's oh, it's not the Proud Boys. Fuck, it's Patriot Prayer that's holding this rally, right?
No, it's Joe Biggs. Joe Biggs and Proud Boys. I think the article, the one you have up is the Portland Mercury article.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to hear the worst about any of this stuff, like this is media bias at its finest. This is
I mean, I also pulled up
propaganda, basically.
I pulled up the Rose City Antifa article on it too. So
yeah, these are like, if you want to look at the people who are holding these rallies in the worst light, like those are the two articles we'll look at. Yeah, that's Joe Biggs, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the Death to Antifa shirt on. Which, if you're holding, like, I get the joke. I get that it's kind of a joke, but if you're Antifa, you don't really think that's a joke.
Yeah, well, the rest of us
right?
don't think it's a joke that you're gonna fucking bash us over the head with bike locks. So
Right. So.
And you don't come with shirt warnings, unfortunately.
We don't think punch a Nazi's that much of a joke.
No.
Right? Because everybody's a Nazi, and so
yeah, so maybe Joe Biggs shouldn't be running around with this sort of iconography.
Right.
It's not helpful. Like, at least to that extent, I can agree with Antifa that this is maybe not the best.
Well, especially his "I'm just here for the violence" shirt.
Yeah.
Like that one is no.
Yeah, the middle
The
one,
helicopter one,
like,
that's a
that's a
meme.
joke.
That
Okay,
is clearly a joke.
anyone on the left watching this, if you would ever end up seeing this part of the show, if you hadn't clicked off already, like, the whole, like, Pinochet thing, they're not serious. No one actually wants to throw you out of helicopters. I promise. They're kidding. Now, the other two that he's got on there, all right, that's a little more concerning, but yeah.
Well, I think most people on the right just think that that's funny, and they don't really know who Pinochet is. Like, they
Yeah,
probably have heard the
probably.
name, and they know that he hates communists, and that he's kind of a joke, but they don't really know. Like, they couldn't tell you any of the history of Pinochet or probably even where he's from.
No,
To be honest.
no, they probably couldn't. Pinochet is like that guy that threw communists out of a helicopter, and there's a lot of people on the right that thinks the communists are fucking crazy and they're going to destroy the country. So it's sort of like, it's not necessarily ironically cheering on Pinochet, but at the same time, they're not actually going to do it. I promise.
Right. We don't have helicopters.
Actually, do you want to just like read some of the Rose City Antifa article? I'm kind of curious.
Uh yeah, let me pull that up and then we can go through it.
Sure.
Uh but I want to give a brief timeline real quick
Yeah, go for it.
cuz well, this all started with the Andy Ngo thing.
Hmm.
After Andy Ngo got beat up is when this rally was announced. Um and then nothing really happened. They were planning the event and then they set the date. And then the shootings we talked about, I think last week, with the one in Texas and the one in Dayton, I think, they happened. And so the people that were holding the organizers toned down their rhetoric a bit in response to that. I've seen a lot of the leaders calling for this to be like a peaceful protest and sort of saying like, don't go to fight Antifa. I watched a live stream by one of she's not an organizer, but she's like, I guess she's high up,
Hmm.
as you could say, in Patriot Prayer, which Patriot Prayer may or may not be going to the rally. People that like Patriot Prayer will probably be there.
Hmm.
But I don't know if like Joey Gibson, the leader of Patriot Prayer, is going to be there because he got arrested, or he didn't. He turned himself in this afternoon,
Hmm.
which is the next part of the timeline. Is that this week, yesterday, and today, people who are part of Patriot Prayer got arrested, and the thing, they got arrested because Joey Gibson and some Patriot Prayer people went to a bar in Portland called Cider Riot, where Antifa like to hang out dressed up as Antifa. And the bar owner supports them and is totally like an Antifa supporter. So Joey showed up to kind of expose this. Like, look, this is totally, it'd be like a black person showing up to a diner in the Jim Crow South, something like that.
Hmm.
But he knew he wasn't going to go in and get a drink or anything. He showed up and they immediately like started yelling at him and like a fight broke out. And so they arrested 7 people from Patriot Prayer, no Antifa people that I know of. Again, I don't know everything, so I'm not God. But they arrested 7 people from Patriot Prayer on charges of rioting, which seems kind of funny. Joey Gibson did like an interview this afternoon with the media outside of the Portland police building before he turned himself in,
Hmm.
which was pretty interesting. My wife actually told me about it, so She watched it, but I didn't get her opinion on it. But that kind of leads us up.
This Antifa article is long.
Right, they really like their propaganda, man. They like this is somebody's job with Antifa.
Somebody spent a long time on this. Okay. Man, if Joe Biggs was if we could clone Joe Biggs a million times, I could see why they're concerned.
Right. So I didn't read this whole article because I have a hard time reading propaganda. It gets me so like irritated because they'll say things and I'm like, no, I don't remember it being that way. So they give us a background of events leading up to this, and basically it looks like they keep calling anybody who's not Antifa far right.
I think this is probably one of my favorite things that I've seen in the entire article, because there's some things I'm seeing in here that I could see why they're concerned. But it's a poster that says "End Rose City Antifa," and it's showing Andy Ngo all beat up. It says "Defend free speech, stand up for Andy Ngo," and it's got like the swastika crossed out, and the communist symbol crossed out, and the three arrows crossed out. Like, fuck Antifa, yeah. Their caption for it, instead of mentioning any of the important bits, is Linwood, Washington, Proud Boys hate group member Naftali Robert Moore posts a flyer which uses the far-right honkler clown character. It's got a tiny honkler in the top left. Whose honk honk slogan is used by neo-Nazis as a dog whistle for Heil Hitler. Wait, what?
Oh, that's new to me.
What the fuck? No, that is not what that means. Where did you get? Okay, that's wrong.
Did you see like the CNN some guy on CNN thought that Trump was signaling to the alt-right because they were gonna
because of 8/8
raise the flags on 8/8.
Yeah,
right. They're like reaching, man. They're like so reaching for this. Like all these dog whistles are only heard by these dogs.
Jesus Christ.
These people who claim that there are these whistles to these.
I think Antifa's ears might be too sensitive. It just possibly. Moore's flyer also links to endantifa.com, which they spelled out the dot for some. Oh, because they don't want to link it. Okay. A forwarding address created by Proud Boys hate group chairman Enrique Tarrio. They don't. Do they not? Wait. Okay. Do they not see any potential like contradiction here? Alt-right, Proud Boy, fucking white supremacists, led with a chairman Enrique Tarrio. Okay, yeah, the white supremacist.
Naftali Robert Moore.
Yeah,
like
that sounds real American. That's totally a white guy name. It might be, like, you don't know, maybe it's like Eastern European.
He could be a white person for all I know, but the
Moore is
like,
typically
if you think
like
of
a white
traditional Caucasian or European name, it's like Bill or George.
I mean, well, okay, that's more like
Sarah.
An American thing. Naftali could be like Eastern European or Russian, or it could be a white guy. But
okay, I can see that. Yeah,
it could be. But anyway, so we got Enrique Tarrio forwarding a White House petition requesting that Antifa be declared a domestic terrorist organization. Joke's on you, they already have. Texas Senator Ted Cruz and Donald Trump have followed the hate group's lead with this proposal. Really?
Yep, because Donald Trump
did Ted
Cruz take orders.
Where did they even get this from? Because like this has 2 comments, so I'm just like, is this like just on his personal page? Man, that you guys really dig hard. Okay.
Well, yeah, they are really good at this sort of like internet research sort of aspect of it. So they'll pull up anything and everything that you've ever tweeted or posted online if they can use it against you. And if they can't use it against you directly, they'll clip it out in such a way so that they can.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the one right below it that says Russell. It's from a guy named Russell Schultz. Maybe I shouldn't even be saying the name. Just ignore that. I mean, whatever. Should August 17th actually happen, I will once again be taking a team of Black Bloc inside Clan Tifa lines. And this is clearly a Facebook post as like one of the backgrounds for it. I guess Antifa's claiming that Schultz has repeatedly claimed that he's like gone behind enemy lines to frame them for far right violence. That's one of the weaknesses of you guys all being dressed in black. I'd like to point out it's very hard to disassociate yourselves, but like, are we going with like some sort of conspiracy that it was actually the far right that beat the shit out of Andy and Yo? Is that what we're going with? Really? That it, like, you guys, no, we didn't do it. It was fake Antifa guys that does all the violence. Okay, guys, just all right.
Yeah, they're
Sure,
infiltrators.
Sure it is.
That's the word.
Fucking sure it is. Here, let's go back to the beginning of the article, because this is, I think most of this is just them like showing receipts down later on. There's like proof for what they're trying to say. So here, I'll start from the beginning. The alt-right, or the far right, is planning to invade downtown Portland, intent on staging a battle with communists and leftists, reminiscent of the June 30th and August 4th, 2018 Patriot Prayer rallies in which far-right brawlers. Man, you guys have classes now. Oh, shit. Are you one of the brawlers, man?
Yeah, right. No, I'm probably a lurker or something.
Oh, shit. Oh, that's a cool class name. You're a lurker.
I haven't gotten into any brawls. I've been to these rallies.
Fucking like Jaws in the background. Anybody. You're gonna get into the Black Bloc and be like just play the Jaws theme right before you attack one of them.
Well, like the closest I've gotten to actually fighting is that one. I think it was like a June or July last year.
Okay.
Where they threw fireworks at people, and I ran into like the fighting, but I didn't punch anybody and I didn't stop anybody from fighting. I just ran up there, realized that was a stupid thing to do. Adrenaline is going, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to kind of stand over here on the sidewalk with my guard up. If anyone comes at me, I'll defend myself. But other than that, I'm going to let these guys just do what they're going to do, because it's already started and I can't stop them now.
Sure.
But I did stop live streaming because got to keep your head on a fucking swivel.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But what was I saying? Yeah, okay. So back to this. We got white nationalists and neo-Nazis. Man, I really hate when neo-Nazis go. Whoop, I clicked off. I'm an idiot. Now, they have like links everywhere in this fucking article. It's actually kind of annoying. White nationalists and neo-Nazis come from all over the country to hunt activists in downtown.
Yeah, that's their favorite language, is that they give off this idea that
they're under
these groups come
assault.
into town and then roam through the streets in groups looking for anybody who's not white or who is gay or trans.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Just assault them and like kill them, and they're just slaughtering these people in the streets, and no, the media is not doing anything about it. Well, it's like, well,
yeah.
Hey, Antifa, you're supposed to be protecting these people, right? Where the fuck are you then?
Seriously.
Like, if this were literally, I tell people, I've talked to people, and they do believe stuff like this. They do believe that, because I'm like, do you really think that trans people are just being killed every day by like neo-Nazis? They're like, well, yeah, it happens all the time. I'm like, are you kidding me? It would be on the news for like a week solid if that happened. If a neo-Nazi killed a trans person and said like, Sieg Heil, Hail Hitler, I love Donald Trump in a MAGA hat while giving the OK symbol in a Pepe shirt, it would be like front page news for a week straight or more and constantly be talked about. Like, these stories aren't just being shoved under the rug. A thing that Antifa likes to do is they like to claim that any sort of crime or murder or attack that affects somebody who's in one of the groups that they like, so a trans person or whatever, is right-wing violence against that group of people.
Well, yeah, after all, no one else would ever go after any of these groups, especially not just as a, for instance, random crime that wasn't targeted at anyone in particular, just sort of happened to this person.
Right. So if a homeless person who's high on drugs stabs a trans person, that's immediately to them a hate crime and attack on all trans people.
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously.
That's their worldview.
What else would it be? Come on.
It's not they were high, they wanted to get a fix, and they were out of money, and they wanted the person's wallet. That could never be. No. It's because they hate trans. But that's obviously just because to Antifa, it's like the world is broken into tribes, into groups, and everybody's a representative of their group. So I am representative of all white straight males.
Wait, but we're both white straight males, so which one of us is representing?
We both are.
Do we have to figure out which one of us is, like, who's the alpha representative? Is that a thing, or are we both equally represented?
No. We are merely representatives of our group because our groups have a certain culture, and so I mean it just starts to sound like alt-right shit after a while.
What if we disagree though? Like, do we have to split it down the middle? I get half the representation, you get half?
Well, if we disagree, well, if you and I disagree, it's I don't know how they would treat that. Like if we disagreed on something,
because it almost seems like if you're going to go with that logic that everyone's a representative, then they would be an equal representative as compared to the rest of their group, which means they get exactly as much representation as they themselves as an individual get. So they're not really representative for the whole group. They just speak for themselves because they're only one piece of the whole.
Well, yeah, that's the truth, is that they speak for themselves. But
in their own logic, that's where that should go.
That's just not how they see things, though.
They need to think through their own logic. They need to think through their own goddamn logic.
Well, that would require them to think and then to see people as individuals.
Require them to think.
They don't want to see.
That's fair.
They don't want to see people as individuals. They want to know who are they. Because I'm listening to that book by Jonathan Haidt, The Coddling of the American Mind, and there's the 3 great untruths that he talks about, and it's essentially, I forget what they are exactly, but one of them is always trust your feelings, and another one is anything that hurts you makes you weaker. And then there's another one I can't remember. But it perfectly characterizes the progressive mindset, to a T, in my opinion. It's definitely worth a listen to. But I was thinking about Antifa today because I'm thinking about going to this rally tomorrow. I talked with my wife about it, and she said that I could go, just I can't die, so.
No dying.
Yeah. No dying. That's not allowed.
Oh, here, I found it. The great untruths. The untruth of fragility. What doesn't kill you makes you weaker. The untruth of emotional reasoning. Always trust your feelings. And the untruth of us versus them. Life is a battle between good people and evil people.
That's the one. Yeah. That's exactly, to me, that's Antifa's belief system. That's their holy trinity.
I don't know if it's necessarily Antifa's, but if we're talking about the average college educated, quote unquote, kid that comes out, having listened to way too much of their professor speak from their fucking pulpit of stupid. I seriously have no idea where these professors...
Pulpit of stupid. I like that.
What do you even want?
That's good.
What do you want? They say all this crazy shit, and then it doesn't map onto reality at all. but they think it does because they never go outside. They just hang out in their fucking goddamn faculty lounges and talk to each other and circle jerk about how great the world would be if they were running it and come up with these weird thought processes that they pass on to their students. And it ends up with this, where it's like like you have to trust your feelings, because it's like the philosophy department just had a baby with the English department, and this is what they came up with.
Yeah, these are the humanities, man. That's what they are.
Well, I mean, like the always trust your feelings thing, that is a very philosophical concept. And it's not necessarily wrong, because that's, in a lot of ways, it's true. That's really all you've got is what you can understand. And your feelings are an outpouring of what you understand. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't question yourself.
Right. I think,
like questioning yourself means that you do not always trust your feelings, and you need to trust yourself.
Well, yeah,
you need to question yourself and trust yourself.
That there's a word for that, and it's called reasoning.
Yes. Thinking
you got to use your reason.
Thinking it all the way through.
Well, it's like trust your feelings. I don't think you should just trust your feelings. I think you should recognize your feelings and then try to understand, okay, why am I feeling like that? Is it just because this is new and I don't know anything about it yet, so I'm skeptical or angry about it? Or is it because this opposes something that is there something deeper here that I'm reacting to? Because that's the question I always try to ask myself if I'm getting upset about something.
Also possibly just having a bad day.
Yeah, why am I getting so upset about this? Is there something deeper here that I'm getting upset about? You know what? Asking that question, things have gotten I always feel better. It's no, I'm upset about this because it's not my fucking job to do this. Oh, okay. I don't think this is my responsibility. Well, then I think, well, is it my responsibility? It's like, well, partial of it is, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. Then you need to accept that is partially your responsibility, but also the other person, your coworker, needs to accept that part of the responsibility too. So
yeah, I think that the two that actually map onto Antifa the closest are probably 2 and 3. That always trust your feelings, because God knows Antifa, as much as I think that they would describe themselves as rational, and this sort of article is kind of how they do that, I think, where they'll put together something like this, where they list it out, and if anyone says they don't know what they're talking about, they're like, what do you mean I don't know what I'm talking about? Look at all this evidence I've compiled. Look at this huge article I made. I know exactly what I'm talking about. What do you mean? Yeah, but you started from... The problem with things like this, it's not that they haven't put time and effort into it, it's that they start from a proposition and then work it backwards. They start from a conclusion and then look for evidence that supports it. And if you're doing that, yeah, you're going to find a lot of information, and it's going to be, to you, it's going to look very well reasoned, but you worked it backwards. You didn't start from a neutral position and then figure out the truth from there. You started from, this Joe Biggs guy is radicalizing everyone, and he's going to come kill us on August 17th, and we're all going to be dead, and the trans people are going to be decapitated and with their heads on spikes, and it just turns into this fucking thing. It doesn't need to go there. It goes fucking crazy. I don't know. I think that one maps the closest, because what doesn't kill you makes you weaker. I don't know if that necessarily fits with Antifa, because I think that they sort of understand that, it's one of the most interesting things about Antifa that I've noticed is that they are very inventive. They're creative, and I'll give them some credit for that. For instance, with some of their tactics, where granted it's childish, but where they'll have one person that stands up at the front, like you said, and just, they don't do anything. They just stand up at the front and stare down the person in front of them while there's this wheel of fists operating behind them, where one person will come up, get a swing in, and then run away, and the next person runs up, gets a swing in, all while the person that's standing in front of you actually blocking you. You can't hit that person because they didn't do anything. It's creative.
Right.
It's
because they're all wearing masks.
Right. So even if they disappear into the crowd, if you took a swing at someone, it may or may not be the right person, and good luck ever proving that they actually did anything.
Right. Even
So,
if you have video, they say there was a person, an Uber driver, who called into a local radio station, and I happened to be driving around when they called in,
yeah,
and they said that they picked up an Antifa person,
okay.
openly Antifa, like, and she asked them, "Well, why do you guys wear masks if what you're fighting for is so good? Why do you wear masks?" Uh, she probably said it a lot more polite than that because she has her Uber score to worry about
Yeah,
and
probably.
everything. But he said that he does it because the people on the right are so crazy that he's protecting himself and his family members because they'll show up at their house and murder him. Like, they literally believe this stuff.
Whoa. Yeah, that's number 2 totally fits. But what doesn't kill you makes you weaker, I think, is a very like there are definitely some people like that. I don't think those people are in Antifa. Because these are the kinds of people that take their experiences and try and morph them and turn it into something that they think is positive. So I think that they do
Well,
try and learn from their experiences, personally.
the what doesn't kill you makes you weaker. It fits because the way he explains it in the book is that it has more to do with, like,
Because the way that's written makes it sound like what he's saying is the untruth of fragility is that it's a good thing, it's a virtuous thing to run from your experiences. Don't learn anything, trust your feelings, and then go fight the bad people.
well, I mean, that sounds like Antifa to me. But the fragility thing is, it's because they describe harm as, like, it to include emotional harm.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if I say something and you hear it and you get stressed, like, stress harms you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we can agree that stress has a form is a stress does harm an individual,
I mean, I'd
given
say,
enough of it.
yeah,
And,
the same way that working out harms you, but yeah,
well, right, like, stress isn't good. It's not good to have a bunch of stress, but so they
not good to
see,
have
okay,
none either, but yeah.
right, they don't see that, though. They don't believe that to be true. They're
Mm.
saying, well, these people are stressed and that's harming them, and so people talking and saying things that stress people out is harming them, therefore they're hurt, and so it's okay to fight back against
See,
them
I
because they're bad.
associate the fragility thing more with the academics, which I guess I just don't see Antifa as the academics. I don't see them as the intelligentsia or the intellectuals or the thought
they
leaders.
are they are the children, I guess, of the not necessarily biological children, but the
Hmm.
intellectual children of these academics. They're the students, I guess, because the
I
academics
suppose
are
it's
like
true
the
that we have seen
professors.
some academics participating, so yeah, maybe.
Well, because I kind of see Antifa as the scrawny white. Though I have seen black Antifa members. I'm just going to throw that out there.
They
So,
do they do
um,
exist. There are
they do
non-white
exist.
progressives, we promise. You're not going to find very
Um,
many of them, but they do exist.
right. Uh, I just kind of see them as like this skinny college student who either has graduated with a degree
Hmm.
in gender studies or something equally useless, is working at Starbucks and thinks that the only reason that they're not super rich by now is because the system's broken and we need communism to come in and fix it. And they're the smart one. Because they're so smart and they've always been told they're so smart that they should be able to be making more money than, like, an idiot like Donald Trump. uh, so they're just like, I think that I see a lot of Antifa people as the disaffected college degree Starbucks worker. That's kind of who I imagine when I see Antifa. And I don't know if that's always right, but
I see them more like the like sort of the mirror image of like the, you know, the when you go on the very far right, right, you get like the crazy preppers that have got like an arsenal in their van and a bunch of food and like 40 years of fucking fuel and all
they
that.
own a bunker out in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, I sort of see them as the mirror reflection of that, where instead of all that, it's just raw paranoia mixed with what the intersectional ideology, which I do agree that the intersectional ideology does come with an element of this fragility untruth. That's absolutely true. But when you mix in the paranoia, I don't know. I feel like that has more to do with it. Because a lot of these people, like that one guy that you were talking about, the person in the Uber, that dude's paranoid. I'm sorry, that dude is unwell. That guy is not
Right.
okay. He needs to talk to someone. He needs to get a doctor or something. That kid's not okay.
Well, I think the reason people in Antifa like believe this stuff was one because of the like articles like this,
Hmm.
the propaganda, and the way social media works. It just keeps feeding it to them, and they keep looking for it, and so they believe it. And then two is that they know that Antifa would do this to people given the chance. And I'm not saying Antifa is going around and doing this. I do know of people who have had like their tires slashed by, well, they said it's by Antifa, but there's no. I remain slightly skeptical sometimes.
Well, I think
I
it
don't
is
know.
fair to
Maybe
point
I'm
out
just
that
too skeptical of everything.
I think it is. I don't think the guy that got in that Uber was necessarily. I think his fears were fair, if unfounded, but I don't think it's would be an unreasonable estimation for someone in his position to look at what his side does and say, well, obviously, if we showed them our faces, they would do the same thing to us.
Right. If we're doing this to them, and if they know who we are, they're going to do it back to us.
Right. They're cowards, fundamentally. But
Yeah.
like
Antifa is a bunch of cowards.
it's fundamental cowardice. Yeah. They're not willing to have an actual fight. They want to have a fight behind this giant dark wall where you can't see who's fighting you.
Well, that's why I get real frustrated with some people on the right too who have started taking to wearing masks. They're like, well, Antifa does it, and so we need to protect ourselves too. And it's like,
I mean, I
no,
get
you're
it,
just
but
being a big ass pussy, just like Antifa. Like, and if I go to this rally tomorrow, which I'm planning on going to, and I see people in masks, that's exactly what I'm going to say to them if I talk to them. If I talk to them, I don't know if that would be actually benefit anybody to actually talk to these
it's
people.
probably not productive because anyone that's out there in a mask is of the mindset that if they don't wear the mask, it's their family that's going to be affected. Honestly,
Well,
it's probably not just them because you got to admit, like single guys that have nothing else going on, like they don't normally worry about what's going to happen. They just go do what they think is the right thing to do. But when your family's involved, that's when you start having to consider, you know, should I be a part of this? Is there a way I can be a part of this? And the answer is yes. You can wear a mask. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but it is an effective strategy. Unfortunately.
well, have you ever heard of the Ring of Gyges?
The Ring of Gyges? No.
Yeah. So there's it's I forget where it is, but I think it's one of Plato's writings
Okay.
where he's talking about Socrates, and it's
Oh,
a dialogue between Socrates.
you talking shit about my man Socrates?
No, it's Socrates talking to another person. I forget exactly how the story goes, but essentially the person proposes the idea that if somebody were in possession of the Ring of Gyges, which turns you invisible, that they could essentially they would essentially become the worst version of themselves because they can't be held account to what they're doing. So they'll do whatever they want. Socrates tries to debunk this in a way, but I heard somebody commenting on it where they kind of like say, well, actually, like psychologically speaking, this is the person opposing like Socrates is right on this. And I see that kind of as part of why people wear masks, is because it lets them, if you're in a mask and you're completely protected, you can't be held to account. It'll amplify who you are, in my opinion. It'll amplify who you really are and allow you to give in to your darkest desires. And so you'll be able to break windows. You'll be able to throw jars full of urine and shit at people and throw bricks at other human beings because they're bad guys. You fully believe that they're bad guys and that you will face no repercussions for doing what you're doing.
Also true. I still think that the concept of the mask, I don't necessarily think is coming from a bad place, but I do agree that the mask in practice does lead to some pretty bad things. Because you're right, when everybody gets, I think it's more about when they get used to the idea. Because I feel like the first time you wear a mask at like one of these things and you like maybe just throw a swing or something, I don't think you fully realized that you have the mask on because you're not used to it. It's just sort of, you have the mask on, that's great, and it's keeping your family safe and it's keeping you from being harassed, and that's fine. But I feel like it's after it's happened a few times, like with Antifa, where they start getting used to the anonymity, they start getting used to the idea that they can do whatever they want, and they start forming strategies around it. Like that wheel of fist I was talking about earlier. That's the kind of thing that's not possible if you're not in masks. And it's the kind of thing you wouldn't come up with unless you're very, very used to it. The kind of weird strategy you wouldn't have come up with otherwise.
Well, and I also see, for me, I see Antifa, the reason Antifa is wearing masks is because it's the physical manifestation of their ideology. That they are simply a representative of the collective, and so if they're all wearing masks, they're all the same. They're all in black. They're all the same, and so they're speaking with one voice. They're essentially the Borg, I guess.
Well, looked at it from above, it kind of looks like a blob mass moving. It's really weird.
Right, like,
you ever seen like a top-down footage of Antifa moving?
No, not really.
It's weird looking.
Well, it's weird to like see them marching in the streets, man. It's like, have you ever watched any like movies where they portray like medieval combat or like ancient combat with two armies standing against each other, and they have like the people in the front that are the most eager to fight, and they're angry looking, and they try to be as big and scary as possible.
Big tough bastards, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's like all the flags and banners behind them, and like the crowd like moving around, like a big mass of people moving around. It's exactly like that.
Antifa doesn't really have very many tough bastards, but yeah.
Well, they try to look tough. I mean, you can even somebody that's not tough and scary or doesn't look tough and scary, dressed up in all black, and you can just see like the anger and like the I'm going to use this term, the darkness in their heart. It seems a little
like 13-year-old edge poetry, yeah.
Right, yeah, it seems so weird saying that, but I think people can understand what I mean when I say that.
I'm honestly surprised their outfits aren't a little more uniform. Because, I mean, honestly, if they're going to march the streets like that, there's a few things that I'm kind of surprised they don't have. I'm surprised they don't have the plastic knuckles. I'm surprised they're not wearing goggles to protect them. I'm surprised they're not wearing, like, full face masks. Because most of them have, like, sort of ghetto masks for all intents and purposes. Like, maybe it's a scarf, maybe it's there's a lot of different ways they do it. I'm surprised it's not more uniform. where they don't just go to people and be like, hey, look, I know this is your first time, it's fine, but like we would recommend that you get all these things because you're going to be safer, you know?
Well, they are anarchists after all. So they're not going to impose a uniform.
I'm not even suggesting they impose it. Well, I would never. I'm not suggesting at all that they should impose this, because that would actually be a good idea, and I don't want them having good ideas. Because them having good ideas is bad for everyone else.
Well, I think they have like basic guidelines probably, and it's up to you like on how to fulfill those guidelines.
Yeah,
sort of.
That's fair.
So it's like black. Doesn't matter kind of what shade of black. Masks, jeans, or black sweatpants, or whatever. You need a mask. You need something to cover your head, like a backpack or no backpack. Whatever. Cape. I don't know. Bandana. You use a bandana or whatever you want to use. Feel free to express yourself, but these are what you need, But also, there might be part of Antifa culture. There might be things that we just don't understand that they know, being part of the black bloc, that signals out like, okay, this person is leading. Like if somebody's leading a protest, they'll wear like
special bandana.
Like a bandana that's tied in a bow in the back or something. Something that we just think, oh, they're all weird and different, but they're like, well, they know like what to look for. So I don't know if that's true or not.
But I think would sort of fit their MO, because like they do also, like, the one thing where I was almost sort of praising them for that Wheel of Fist, because it's inventive, and that's something that is very common. They're clearly clever. Like, they're clearly not stupid kids. They're just crazy. They're just fucking nuts. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they were doing something like that. But there's just all kinds of things that I'm surprised that they're not using that would make them safer.
Like what? Like helmets and stuff?
I mean, A, helmets
and shields.
B, mirrored goggles so that you can't see any part of their face.
Some of them do wear goggles, though, to be fair.
Well, I mean, like the mirrored ones specifically, so you literally can't see the upper half of their face, because that's the most identifiable part anyway. Which is
they just wear like eye protection typically.
But things like the plastic knuckles, so that if they do ever get into a fight with someone bigger than them, I mean, if you've got the knuckles and they don't, there's a good shot that you could at least do some damage, right? You may not win, but you're probably not going to lose either. Sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, you're gonna take them out.
Right.
Like if you have the knuckles.
Yeah.
They might beat you up or be able to fight you off, but they're gonna walk away more hurt than you are.
Right, but that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, like just basic protection, knee pads, elbow pads. Just basic things that, like, you don't need full body armor, but just things that would help you in a brawl, Because that's effectively where they're going. They're brawling.
If you have too much stuff on, then they start looking like the police.
I mean, but all these things you could literally hide under sweats. You could hide all of these things under gloves and sweats.
Well, it is August.
Well, it's also freaking Portland.
Yeah. It's going to be like 80 something.
Oh man. How will you survive?
That's hot, man. I'm going to fucking melt.
Dude, it's fucking 104 here. Fuck you.
I just need a hat and I'll be good.
Jesus Christ.
I don't have hair on my head. I need a hat.
Oh my god. Oh man, is it gonna be in the low 80s? Oh no.
I don't know. Let me look.
Someone save Cody from the low fucking 80s. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, come on, guys.
You giant
tomorrow is a high of 77.
Oh man. How will you survive?
Fucking global warming, damn it. God damn it. All this global warming.
Fucking bastards.
It's like 65 right now.
For fuck's sake.
So hot. Ah.
I hate you so much.
It's actually been a really mild summer this year, but
It actually has
so
been pretty okay.
one thing I wanted to bring up too, it's been brought up before, but I'm like bringing weapons essentially. It's like I 100% believe it's people's constitutional. It's a human right to bear arms. But I mean, for me, like I have a concealed carry permit, but for me, like thinking about it, I probably won't be carrying.
I think concealed handguns are probably as far as it should go. Just because if everybody on the right-hand protest is running around with rifles, eventually Antifa is going to start saying, look, if they're going to carry guns all the time, we need to carry guns. And some of the people in Antifa are already saying that. That, you know, we should be bringing guns. We need to be able to protect ourselves. There are some people that are already saying that in Antifa circles. And to a certain extent, that's what's been happening on the right all the time, but I mean, you kind of expect those guys to have guns. Let's be real.
Well, yeah.
So it seems to be
I
setting a dangerous precedent.
Right. I don't think people should be carrying around guns. I would prefer if, I mean, this is going to make me sound like an anti-gun person, but I would prefer it if nobody had weapons at this event.
I don't think it's unfair for people to bring pistols, just in case. But, again...
Because for me, I'm thinking, like, I'm not an expert with my gun yet.
Sure.
I am not a great marksman or anything. I've shot guns before. The gun that I own and carry, I still haven't gone out to the range yet with it. So I would be more worried about...
What, you haven't even fired it yet?
No, I have been super busy.
Fucking boo.
I carry it around, like I carry it with me and I know how to fire it. It's just I haven't had a chance to get out to the range. I got the ammo for it and everything. It's up there. I just need to find a place close by where I can go one weekend and just fire off some rounds.
Well, whatever. As long as you're keeping it clean.
Well, yes, of course. Keep it clean. If it's not on me, it's locked up.
Yeah.
So, for me, though, I would be more concerned. I'm not concerned about me doing something bad. I'm not concerned about that. I would defend myself if provoked hard enough. But I'd be more worried about, like, say, me getting attacked and then somebody else taking it from me.
That's also fair.
That's my greatest concern. I also don't think I'm going to be somebody who would be out in there fighting, you know. But with Antifa, you never know. Like,
you never know whether or not you're going to have the choice. Yeah.
Well, it could be after the rally, and I could be trying to walk back to my car, and they could attack me for all I know. Which at that point, I would probably want it with me.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why I'm thinking. There's
going to be a gang of people
on both sides. I think the heaviest artillery that I think either side should be bringing is probably those plastic knuckles. They're short range. Like, those really are more self-defense, or if you're getting into a brawl. Like, they can do some damage. They're threatening enough, but you're not going to... even if you threw it, like, oh no, someone has a bump on their head. That's the worst thing that's going to happen that one time. But, yeah.
Well, I mean, I would prefer if nobody brought those too, but...
I mean, let's be realistic, though. Someone's...
people...
there's going to be... That's going to happen.
People, yeah, there's... Anytime I suggest to people, like, just don't bring weapons and armor and stuff, they just... There's a certain section of people that are like, you're an idiot. Like, they just get upset about it. And to me, it just feels like they say they're just, they're going to attack you anyway, so you might as well be ready. And it's like they're the crazy prepper people. It's like, maybe they might attack you, and history has shown that, but like, I have had this thought, and I keep trying to spread it around on the people that are going to these rallies, is that we need to let them just beat the shit out of us and not do anything about it. Not like we don't want our people hurt,
Right.
but if it would be impossible if like Patriot Prayer or whoever's going to this rally, if you had like just row after row of people who are marching, all linking arms, and then Antifa just beating the shit out of these people, and then them going down, and you have people on the sides come up and pull them off so they don't get hurt more, and then just another wave of people marches in singing the national anthem or whatever, and Antifa beats the shit out of them, and they just get pulled out, and just keep doing that. I don't see any way media could portray that as anything other than Antifa violence.
I don't know if because that would almost certainly end up with someone getting seriously hurt, unfortunately, as we saw with Andy.
Absolutely. That would absolutely be true, yes.
But it is also true that part of the reason that the media doesn't take Antifa very seriously is because they're useless. And they can't fucking seem to win a fight. So as long as they keep losing, up until the point, like, maybe it's a good idea to let them have a win before they actually organize and actually gain some real strength. Because that's one of the ironies of Antifa, is that the second they win, they lose. They can't win.
Well,
they can never win, or they start losing immediately.
They win. They will win if we engage, if the non-Antifa people engage with Antifa, and Antifa manages to beat them up.
Yeah.
Because it'll be portrayed as far right violence crushed by freedom-loving, D-Day like Antifa.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That'll be the narrative. So if there's any fighting from the non-Antifa side, the violence will immediately be blamed on them. And then if Antifa wins, they will have a win, though.
Yeah, the protest needs to be strictly pacifist.
Right. We need to go the MLK route, is what I'm thinking.
Literally just let them hose you. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there were protests. Joey Gibson talks about this. There were protests that MLK did where black people went into a diner and just sat at the diner and wanted to order food, and they didn't get served. There's like people getting angry and yelling at them and then beating them up, like punching him, knocking him off the chair, and he just gets back up and sits back in the chair, and they keep knocking him down, and he just keeps getting back up. Like, that is my opinion. That's something that Joey Gibson, I think, wants, but I don't think he doesn't have the control over people that Antifa would like him to have, like people to believe he has, I guess. Yeah. The people at these rallies are so sick of Antifa, and then the way to deal with it is so split. Like, there's the people who are like, we the people need to like stand up and fight back and, deal with this shit because the police aren't doing anything and the government's not doing anything.
Yeah, but what happens after you deal with it? Nothing.
Right. Well, it's like, well, okay, like, partially true. Like, yes, but what you're trying to say is we need to go in there and essentially like do what Antifa is saying that we're doing and hunt these people down. Like, no, they're, as much as it pains me to say that, they're still Americans. They're still human beings. They're still, as far as I know, they're still citizens of the Republic.
Yeah, they're just insane.
So we can't just go gun them down. I don't recommend that solution for anybody, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that if the right ever really wanted to, the fight would be over instantly.
Well, yeah, if you
But
got the right so united and so set on this one thing, that
yeah, the fight would
that
be
would be.
over in 20 seconds flat. But the question is, okay, great, you killed all of your opposition. Now what? Now
Well,
you've turned the entire country against you.
then you've built up this machine of essentially genocide. I don't know.
Yeah.
What would you call it?
Well, I
This
mean,
machine of death.
at that point,
It's
you've
some level of power, and someone's going to want to keep that power and keep it going. So they'll find a new enemy.
well, I think that's a little bit further down the line, but it is also true that there would be at that point a level of acceptance for that as a valid tactic for dealing with your opponents. And now you've got the moderates running scared, where before it was the left that was causing the problems, and you've got this weird, tacit alliance between the middle and the right switching sides completely. Where it's because the moderates are switching with the people that are effective. Because generally speaking, the moderates are with who is causing them the least problems. That's where the moderates are. Who is the least pain in my ass? That's effectively where they are at any given time, and that seems to switch about every 20 years. So we're halfway through it, guys. We're halfway through dealing with the left's bullshit. Hooray! And then we get to have the 90s again, and then it's going to be the right that are being assholes again. Woo!
We're gonna ban video games. It's gonna be great.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Fuck off, Trump. Come on.
Yeah, right. Like,
seriously.
Damn it, Trump. You're making it really hard for me wanting to vote for you.
Swear to God.
Lay off the video games, annex Hong Kong, purchase Greenland. We're good.
I swear to God, I don't care if Tulsi's available as a candidate. I'm voting for Tulsi in the goddamn general. I'm writing in Tulsi because, goddamn, like I want to like Yang, but then he goes like, if I wanted the dude, and this is completely off topic, but if we're talking about presidential candidates, like if I wanted the dude whose entire thing is he literally just shows up and it was like, sad little Marco, fucking, oh, look at little Rubio over here, probably off to embezzle some cocaine. Where are you going, little Marco? Like, if I wanted that, I'd vote for Trump again. If that's what I wanted, I'd be voting for Trump. I don't want that. I want someone that's got like some policy positions and he's like pro-business and like most of these things Yang hits, but I'm just like, dude, I don't want the attitude. No, like I think there's a certain section of the population for sure that looks at Trump's attitude and they're like, finally someone's just saying shit straight. And maybe he's an asshole, but at least he's not lying to me. Fair enough. Like, I understand that. That's fair enough. But you don't get there by being fake, Yang. Like, did you see that stupid shit where he was like challenging Trump to a push-up contest?
No.
Like, literally, like, legit. Yang went on television.
He would totally lose, by the way. Just kidding. He'd probably kick Trump's ass.
He probably would. But he literally went on television and called Trump a fat slob, and he challenged him to a push-up contest to see if Trump could even do one push-up. Like, dude, Trump is like almost 80. Even if he wasn't fat, like, he's almost 80. There are very few men in, like, going into 80 that are able to really be in their, peak physical excellence, There are very few men that maintain it that far. Very few.
Well, I hope I am as energetic as Trump is when I'm as old as he is.
Yeah, legit.
That guy seems to have, like, a shitload of energy, man.
Yeah, he does. It's actually kind of crazy, but I'm looking at like Yang like, come on, man, just stick to the policy. If this is just like a tactic, okay, I don't like it, and I wish you'd stop it, but okay, it gets you some attention. Fair enough.
It's to get eyeballs.
It is, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I want someone that's above that.
I don't like it either, but like
at
the same time, this is what the media will publish, and so at some point you got to realize I got to be a fucking lunatic and
I get it, but coming
just to
from
get the
Yang,
media attention.
because I know that Yang is not like that, so when he does it, it just comes off as slimy, you know?
Well, yeah, it comes off as what are those people that run campaigns for you?
Yeah, like something that they would suggest, and it's like, dude, I don't. Nobody wants the fucking polished politician anymore. Okay, we're left or right. We're done. Nobody likes
Right?
that.
Yeah, so
It's fucking. It's cringy at this point. It's slimy. It's annoying. It's frustrating. It's just stop it. Just fucking stop it.
yeah, but we gotta like they gotta get them fucking clicks, man.
I
Gotta get them
guess.
clicks.
But like I
So
look at the other side and I'm looking at
so
Tulsi that gets on that's like trending on Twitter before Twitter fucking removes her because they're a bunch of goddamn cowards. Uh,
well, she is a Russian bot
yeah,
after all.
exactly. I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot. She's an Assad toady. Jesus. But yeah, like how did she get on the front page? By taking Kamala Harris to task. Hello.
Right.
Have you
I
tried
think
saying something substantive? Try that.
well yeah, like I want somebody to talk about policy and about that sort of stuff, but there are other ways to get into the news other than like challenging Trump to a push-up contest
God, that
or
was so gay. I Oh my god.
saying saying, I would take him out behind the gym and make out with him and
I had
touch him
forgotten about that.
inappropriate touch him inappropriately.
I had forgotten about Joe Biden saying that. Oh my god.
um, there are ways to get people to pay attention to you
Yeah.
without having like I mean, I'm probably biased, but like look at Jordan Peterson. Like he
Hmm.
doesn't do that kind of shit. Like even when he's like
Oh yeah, can you imagine
in
Jordan Peterson challenging Trump to a push-up contest to get book sales?
even when he
How
Jordan
sleazy would that
Peterson is
be?
in like attack mode, which
Yeah.
I don't think he really even has an attack mode, but when he's you know going at like there are times where he goes after people,
Yeah.
not like I'm going to ruin your life, but the thing you're saying is so idiotic and here are the 20 ways that it's idiotic and it's been idiotic for like 40 years and you're still shouting this message.
Hmm.
Do your damn homework, clean your fucking room. But like he
Then
just
move the
does
hell
it
on,
and
yeah.
he does it in such a way where he gets attention for it, and I don't even think that's his goal, but he gets attention for it while still being true to himself and like I guess a good person, like
Well,
or at least not a slimy person.
I think Yang is kind of running up on the fact that don't get me wrong, I like Yang, I like his ideas, I think he's a good guy, but he's not that charismatic. He's not. Like he's just not. Um his speaking is like when he's got a long format thing, like he did really good on the H3 podcast, I thought. Um
Well, yeah, in a
if you saw his appearance there,
conversation.
yeah, in a conversation format where he can fully lay out his ideas, it's fine. But when you've got someone that fucking when he's sitting there having to like get attention and get sound bites,
Yeah,
he falls apart.
he's not clippable. He's not
Yeah,
biteable.
yeah. It's hard to clip out anything with Yang and have it make any sense because you need a wider context, which in some ways is a good thing because it means like because he's a policy wonk. He's got some good ideas, I think, but
Well, yeah, I guess Yang Gang aside, he's not memeable.
yeah, kind of. That's basically it. Like even the
Trump
Yang Gang hasn't been able to
is
fucking get him really memed.
Trump is super memeable. Like even AOC is super memeable.
Yeah, I feel like if Yang really wants to get out there, he should really start. Maybe he should start engaging with as much as he finds 4chan distasteful. And I get it, I do, I get it. But maybe he needs to start saying some of his
Yeah.
crazier ideas and just putting it out there as sound bites to try and reel in the memes, and then following it up with, "Here's what I meant. Here's the context." You know?
Yeah, he needs to sow some meme seeds and
Because
reap some meme,
he's got
become a
plenty of
meme
ideas.
farmer.
Like he needs, he kind of does. He's got all these ideas that if you just take them out of context, they sound stupid as fuck. Honestly, like the $1,000 a month thing. Like if that's all you know about Yang, it sounds fucking stupid.
That is pretty much all I know about
Oh
Yang.
my god. If that's all you know about his
I
policies, that
can't I
does sound
can't vote
stupid.
in the Democratic primary, so I
That's fair.
can't be expected to follow everybody.
Oh, Yang.
Well, Yang is like uh one of the least offensive of the candidates, in my opinion. So like
Ironically, he'd
him,
probably be the most
him,
effective at spending the budget. Like out of
him,
all of
and
them.
like Tulsi Gabbard,
Hmm.
and there were a couple other people whose names I don't know off the top of my head
Yeah, I got to
who
admit,
I thought were like,
I've kind of turned on Bernie because like I see his like Facebook posts all the
oh yeah,
time,
I was never
and
on board with
I
Bernie.
don't know. I see him say all these things, and I'm just like, dude, you're either lying or wrong or just stupid. I don't know which, but like,
He's trying to do the Trump thing where he just says a bunch of crazy stuff and then pretends the people that criticize him are bad people, and then
can people please stop trying to be Trump?
but he just comes across as like a crazy old man.
Yeah,
Like Trump comes across like he's trying to fight the, at least from the right wing perspective, he's trying to fight the crazy progressives. Like he's
to me, Trump
trying to
comes off
fight back.
as he comes off as eccentric. Like some of his ideas are bad, some of them are good, but he throws them out there, sees what happens, and then reels it in and see if he's caught something. You know, that's the way he
Yeah.
looks like to people that are following it and are somewhat moderate, in my opinion.
He just says whatever he's thinking, and then if enough people get upset about it, he
Well,
changes his mind.
yeah, like, but the reason that works for Trump is because it's got some authenticity to it. But when you see someone like Yang or Bernie do it, it's just like it. It's not you, dude. Like, play to your strengths, and this ain't it, Chief.
Yeah, you're not a reality TV personality.
Seriously, like this dude's been doing this
You're
for how many
Yang.
decades? Like you guys are you're trying to play his game, but he's been playing like he's playing like fucking Go, and you guys are over here playing checkers. At least on his battlefield, you're trying to play on his terms. Stop it, fucking stop it.
Yeah,
This
he's
is
playing
his
checkers.
game.
And you're playing chess. So it's like I jump your queen. Haha.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit about your rules. He's made his own rules.
Right. Yeah,
Stop.
he's got
Just
the Trump rules.
seriously, play to your strengths. Yang, play to your strengths. This is fucking awful. Stop it. Oh my god. Sorry.
Was there anything else we wanted to touch on with the Portland protests? I kind of
Yeah, we kind of like abandoned Antifa entirely halfway there.
yeah, that's fine. Like for me, I'm worried that my biggest worry isn't actually Antifa, is that white nationalists,
Actually show up.
yeah, like hijack the event essentially, or like people a lot like a section of people show up there specifically to get into fights with Antifa and to punch a commie, like they say punch a Nazi.
Yeah.
That is my biggest concern. Like Antifa, I am not worried about Antifa because Antifa's gonna Antifa.
Yeah.
Like
Gotta
I
worry
want
about your own
to, if
side.
I'm gonna go to this, and when I talked to my wife about going, she's like, "Well, why do you want to go?" And I said, "I want to go because there are going to be people on the non-Antifa side who are there looking for a fight or willing to get into fights if they're not willing to start them." And I'm hoping that I can be a bit of a check on those people, because I do believe that right-wing people should be able to rally and protest in Portland without being beat up by a bunch of people in masks.
That's fair, yeah.
I think I am 100% on board with that. And during the interview Joey Gibson gave right before he turned himself in, one of the reporters asked him, well, why do you come to Portland if you know Antifa is going to show up? You want Antifa to show up. Like, that's what you're doing. And he's like, that's part of it. Yeah. Like, he's just like, he admitted, like, yeah, that's part of it. But I've done like 60 rallies all throughout Washington, and Washington's like, 10 minutes away from where Portland is.
Yeah.
It's like literally across the river from Portland. You can see it from Portland. He's like, I've done like 60 rallies since the last time I came to Portland, and they were all peaceful. It's only when we come to Portland that an Antifa shows up that there's violence. And he's like, yeah, because you want it. Like, the reporter just didn't understand that. And I don't think Joey was able to articulate it as well in the moment.
The point seems fairly obvious. It's like, look, it's not us starting the fights.
Well, right. He's saying, they're saying, well, you're instigating these fights, and so it's your fault. He's like, well, no, we're coming here to exercise our basic human right of free speech and the right to assemble, and we get attacked for it. Like, even fucking Nazis have these rights, Antifa has these rights. Socialists have these rights. We all have these rights as human beings, and as citizens of the United States, we're allowed to exercise these rights.
Yeah, even communists.
Right. So,
but I mean, okay, questionably, but no, I'm joking.
Well, maybe not communists.
I mean, if we throw them out of the helicopter first, then they can assemble however they want. In one piece, in two pieces, maybe 50.
They can peaceably assemble in this helicopter.
And then fall to pieces.
Yeah. We'll just take them for a swim.
Joking. I disavow myself.
But it was just like, I don't want to say victim blaming, because I'm trying not to be so hyperbolic about everything. I mean,
it kind of is.
But it feels that way.
Yeah.
That he's like, well, you come here because you're going to get a reaction. And he said, well, yes, part of it is we do know we're going to get a reaction, and we think that reaction is bad. It's not a reaction we should allow.
Yeah, we're trying to highlight the fact that these people react this in a completely ridiculous way.
Well, it's like, and he did make this point too. He said, that's the same thing that they did to black people during the civil rights protests. Is that, they went into the areas they weren't supposed to go to, and people said, oh, they're only going there to stir up problems. You're only going there because you'll get a reaction. It's like, yeah, we are.
That's the issue that we're trying to fight against. That's the point,
is that the issue is that there's this sort of reaction. We're not setting up like a death camp over here and asking people to bring their trannies or black people or whatever in here so that we can execute them and all have a big party. We can assemble and we can say what we want. You can say the most vile things you could ever want to say, and you have a right to say that.
Well, this should be the takeaway. Is like, look, from Joey Gibson's point of view, this is what I would have said. The takeaway should be this: we can assemble peacefully with no problems. When they show up, that's when there's problems. So who's the problem? Seriously.
Right. He's like, I've had a billion, like he said, I had 60 rallies. 60 rallies. Nobody got in a fight. Nobody was hurt. We didn't hunt down any people. Nobody got shot, stabbed. There was no violence. It's only when we come to Portland.
Yeah.
And the reporter was just like, well, yeah, but it's your fault that these people, that violence and it feels like the mayor did like not a press conference. He had I actually have an article linking to it where he had all these different groups get together and stand in Pioneer Courthouse Square in downtown Portland and essentially denounce hate.
Okay.
Which to
I am
me
against hate. Okay.
Right. Well, it's one of those things where like you listen to it, if you're not in the culture war, I guess, if you don't understand what he's saying, like if you take it literally and you don't have any like notions of where he's going with it, it sounds good. Which is why I'm like, okay, like I like it, but I have, that I'm trying to not trust my feelings, because my feelings are he's thinking about groups like Patriot Prayer and the Proud Boys and right wingers coming here and pushing their rhetoric of hate. Like he's saying, like, these people come here, we've had a long history of protest, but it took a dark turn when these people started coming here spouting their hate and blah, 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 blah. And so he's, to me, like, when he says we need to stand against white supremacy, it's like, yes, I agree. We need to stand against white supremacy. And then I know that he would immediately say, well, you're a white supremacist.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not a white supremacist. No. And he's like, yes, you are. I know you are. And we're standing against you. And it's like, I'm not, though. I'm not a white supremacist. Like, to me, that's what it feels like. And so I don't know if I'm just reading too much into it or if
I think it's
there's
possible,
my bias.
but it's also worth noting that when he says something like that, that is also a good argument for what you're trying to tell your friends, where it's like, look, guys, we can't give them what they want. What they want is for us to run out there and beat the shit out of them. As long as they get to be victims, they've got power. The only way to deny them that is to not allow them to be victims. You can't touch them.
Well, yeah, and that's what like some of the leaders of Patriot Prayer have been saying. Like, I watched a live video of, I think her name's Caroline or something. I'm not sure if I got that right, but anyway, she does the live streams for Patriot Prayer because Joey Gibson got banned on Facebook.
Sounds right. Yeah.
He can't live stream on Facebook, but Patriot Prayer can. So she does it, and she said that what she would like to see for the rally tomorrow is people going there, linking arms. I'm like, oh, I've said that. Like, yeah, getting on there, like kneeling and like praying. And I want you to pray for Antifa. I'm like, I hope this sinks in with these people. Like, it sounds kind of like hokey, but Patriot Prayer is like ultimately like there are people that aren't religious that are with Patriot Prayer, but Joey Gibson's message does have a religious kind of context to it.
Well, sure. I think
he's Christian.
I
for
think
sure.
that some of these people just don't have any faith in the power of pacifism.
Right.
Which I think
absolutely.
I think at this point that's fucking ridiculous. Honest, in my opinion, I think the past 100 years have proved that there is legitimate strategic value in pacifism. There is legitimate value in showing the other side whoever's watching that I'm not going to touch you. If there's going to be any violence done, it's because they did it. I didn't participate in any capacity.
Right.
This is not mutual. This is not combat. This is them instigating violence against a peaceful group.
Well, yeah, and Jonathan Haidt points this out in his book "Coddling of the American Mind."
God, you love that book.
Well, I've been listening to it, and whatever book I'm listening to, I'm like, oh, like that's a great idea. Like that's a cool idea.
I get it.
It's fresh.
Yeah.
But where was I going? It's like
Sorry.
the idea of inclusion and no, I had something else. Something more. Dang it, I forgot. Slipped away. But it's like the power. Oh man, it's bugging me now. I gotta remember it. You talk.
Okay, so.
But what were we talking about?
I was saying, all I was saying is that the power of pacifism really shouldn't be underestimated. This is actually something that I've honestly, one of my personal favorite historical figures is, I mean, and I know this is probably going to sound very basic bitch, but Gandhi. And not necessarily for the message, but for the strategy behind it. And don't get me wrong, the message is good, but the tactical decisions that Gandhi made by leveraging pacifism were legitimately genius. He defeated the British Empire by not hurting anyone. Like, he completely BTFO'd the fucking British by not touching a single person. He didn't hurt anyone, no one was stabbed, no one was punched. It was just peaceful across the board, and it worked. Pacifism works. Just tell people what you want, demonstrate for it, and let the other side show what they're like. Let them demonstrate it. But he managed to use these protests, these peaceful protests, to show the people of India what they're up against, to take control of minerals and resources and the territory, and just, it was honestly like a military incursion, but there was no violence at all. It's kind of unique historically. Gandhi's strategy is legitimately, in my opinion, historically unique and should be treated like that. He should be treated like a strategist and a tactician, not as an activist, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and to me, it goes back to the idea of love thy enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the entire context of that because I don't like biblical quotes out of context, and I haven't made it that far. I haven't made it to the birth of Jesus into the Bible yet. I haven't got that far. I've been listening to it on audiobook. Just so I know.
I wonder if Jesus ever thought, like, if there was like an actual historical figure Jesus, I wonder if he was ever looking forward in time and being like, I bet there's going to be a time where people can like plug a little plastic thing in their ears and listen to my teachings, but nobody's
nope.
saying them.
Yeah, the gospel will be spread
via electricity by electricity and airwaves.
Right, the good word is out there, guys. Just find it.
God, that's
you can
so
download
weird.
it on YouTube.
No, it's honestly, it still blows my mind a little bit that like all of these things that we take for granted today just didn't exist 100 years ago, like at all,
or even 50 years ago. Man,
a lot of them, yeah. A lot of them,
smartphone.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. I talked about this with a guy at work a few months ago that I have more computing power in my pocket right now than they had when they landed somebody on the moon.
It's true.
Like, my smartphone could run circles around any one of their computers. Maybe not all of them, but like.
No, probably all of them. Honestly, think about how much memory you can fit in a phone now.
Well, right, like
you remember back when fucking remember when like 200 megabytes was like, oh shit, 256 megabytes. Oh, so big.
Well,
that's some storage right there.
Well, 1 terabyte hard drive on my computer. Yeah. Like, that's infinite space to people 50 years ago. Like, that would be would be impossible. That'd be like a building full of computers.
Yeah, seriously, programmers back then, if you told them that you had a fucking terabyte of space, they'd be like, dude, I don't even know if I could. I don't even know if we could.
You're a fucking liar.
Like, I don't even know what we would do with that. Like, what would we even put on there? That's so much room. And now you can fit
a shitload of audiobooks and pictures.
Yeah, seriously. But and it has a lot more to do with like the way we use files now, because as things have gotten bigger, people started programming around that, so the files got bigger to match it, which apparently inflation affects everything, including fucking memory space, which is ridiculous.
That's right.
But yeah, nowadays a fucking game can be like 200 gigabytes, like just legit on its own.
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, well,
Anyway, I think now we're just sort of
been
rambling.
two and a half hours. Yeah, I think we've covered everything. It was kind of a longer episode, but I had
Hope you guys enjoyed it. The two
had a
people
lot
watching,
that I
you're
wanted to.
beautiful.
Yeah, I had a lot I wanted to get off my chest about this protest. So
Yeah.
I am
You feel
going
better?
tomorrow. It's at 11. No, probably not. But part of being a man is facing your fears, I guess. And
That's
so
right.
I'm gonna go tomorrow. I might not stay there the whole time. I don't know if I'm gonna record anything or just observe. I'm gonna lurk, avoid any sort of conflict.
You know, maybe
But
maybe what you could do, maybe you should be one of the ones that starts the little prayer sit-in. Just like talk to people, see if you can get anyone to join you. Just start sitting down. And like start yelling to the other guys, be like, "Hey, come on, join us. We're all sitting down for a prayer."
Well, I'm not super religious. I wouldn't even know, but
Yeah,
that would be
neither am
something
I.
I
But
think
who
I could.
fucking?
Well, yeah, if it gets these people to not be jackasses
Yeah,
and trying to punch
dipshits. Yeah,
Antifa, like that's a good idea.
it would also separate out the ones that you don't want being associated with the group.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm gonna try to. I'm not completely introverted, but I'm not a super extrovert. But I want to try to talk to some
Yeah.
people when I'm there,
Just see if you can encourage
just
some good
to try
behavior.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do know a couple people that I know from online are going, so I will try to get them. I'll try to recruit them in this effort. But
Hell yeah.
wish us well, guys. Wish us well tomorrow. Hopefully this isn't the start of the second civil war in Portland. So I don't think it is. I think the media is blowing this way out of proportion.
And if it is, just know that Texas is always safe.
If it is, then I can say I was there.
You're welcome to come to
Provided
Texas,
I
man.
survived.
It's gonna be
I can
great.
tell my children I was there. I knew what happened. I saw it with my own eyes.
Your father tried to stop it, kids. I tried.
I failed you, son. Now
I'm so
you have to
sorry.
go fight the war.
Now you need get a helicopter quick. And at least
Get
10
to
commies.
the chopper.
At least 10 commies.
Yeah. Hopefully not. Hopefully it'll just be
joking.
Hopefully we won't see any articles about this.
Hopefully.
Because it'll be so boring. The media won't really report anything because nothing happened. That's
Honestly,
my dream, man.
I mean, the ideal thing would be for Antifa to actually have a victory, because I'm telling, like, I seriously think maybe that's what some of your guys need, is to understand what exactly happens when Antifa actually wins, because it's not good for Antifa. They're not supposed to win.
Maybe I'll try to talk to them about that angle of it, because they quote unquote won against Andy Ngo, and it gave Antifa like a shitload of bad press. So
yeah, it had a whole bunch of people.
Way.
Exactly, like Andy Ngo's the perfect example. They actually got a victory under their belt, and it did them no favors. It's not good for them. But anyway, we should stop and let these two beautiful bastards go to bed. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't say that. That's Philip DeFranco's. I'm sorry, Philip. Don't copy strike me. No, Philip. No, Daddy. No.
He's one of the two people watching. Him and Trump.
That's true.
So,
Trump and Philip DeFranco. Those are the only people. I mean, who else would be interested in such a high-level podcast?
Right, we're like epic tier.
That's
definitely.
Right. The world just doesn't know about us yet. That's okay.
All right, guys. I'm sure I have more to say, but I won't bore you with it tonight.
We'll bore you with it
have
next
a good weekend.
Instead.
stay safe. Next week, I'll update you on what I see tomorrow. So have a good weekend, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.